Moria stood at the edge of the forest, her new spellbook clutched tightly in her hands. This was no ordinary spellbook. It was far darker, far more dangerous than anything she had used before. With its help, she was determined to not only restore her powers but to destroy Clever once and for all. But there was something more pressing than Clever's success this year. Moria had lost something vital, something that had weakened her for years, her wand. It had been hidden in the brush, lost somewhere deep within the forest during a fateful fight with her brother years ago. That fight had left them both broken, powerless in many ways. Moria had lost her cunning mind and her wand, while her brother had lost his throne and his head literally. She had thrown his skull into the white pumpkin fields in a fit of rage, and that skull was full of knowledge, the key to everything. For years, both Moria and her brother had searched for what they had lost, each knowing that if one of them found their missing piece, the other would be left in the dust. If Moria could find her wand or, even better, her brother's skull, it would be over. She would finally reclaim her strength and use the skull's wisdom to crush Clever and reign as the undisputed pumpkin witch. But this year, Moria wasn't searching alone. Armed with her new spellbook, her looks revamped to reflect her rising power, Moria conjured new crooks and spies to aid her in the hunt. These creatures were not of the ordinary world. They were shadows, figures born from the pages of her dark book, each one more cunning and devious than the last. "I can't do this alone," Moria muttered as she cast the spell, her hands moving swiftly over the glowing text. "I need help." In a swirl of smoke and whispers, the crooks appeared. They were lanky, sneaky creatures with long fingers and quick eyes, perfect for searching the deep underbrush of the forest and the pumpkin fields. Along with them came the spies, small insect-like creatures that could slip into the tightest corners and eavesdrop on conversations. "You?" Moria pointed to the leader of the crooks, a shadowy figure, who looked fierce and menacing to the eye until he opened his mouth and began complaining. His name was Wily the Complaining Wolf. "Find my wand. It's in the forest somewhere, buried deep. You find it, and I'll reward you beyond your wildest dreams." Wily nodded while complaining under his breath, blaming others continuously for the loss of the wand. His shadowy form shifted as he slunk off into the woods with the others in tow. Complaints echoed until they could no longer be heard, disappearing into the night fog. "And you," Moria said, addressing the spies, "I want you watching Clever. Every move he makes, I want to know. This year, I won't just beat him, I'll destroy him." The spies scattered into the air, invisible to the eye as they flew toward Clever's pumpkin fields. Moria watched them go with a wicked grin. This year's pumpkin contest would be different. She had new looks, new magic, new allies, and a thirst for vengeance. But even as her crooks searched for her wand, Moria's mind kept drifting back to her brother's missing skull. The skull wasn't just an ordinary bone. It was filled with knowledge, ancient and power. Her brother had once ruled as Emperor Raularis, who after the feud became known as the Harvest Lord. But after their fight, he had lost his power, his throne, his head, and name. If Moria could find that skull before he did, she could drain it of its knowledge and use it to enhance her magic or barter with it to get the lands she deserves from him. "The skull is still there," Moria muttered, pacing back and forth in her cottage. "Hidden somewhere in the white pumpkin fields. If I could just find it." But time was running out. The pumpkin contest was fast approaching, and if Moria didn't find her wand or the skull soon, she'd have to rely on her conjured crooks and spies to gain the upper hand. Meanwhile, Clever, as always, had his own preparations underway. His pumpkin fields were thriving, filled with an array of vibrant colors and unique shapes. He tended to his pumpkins with care, never rushing the process, never losing faith in his natural abilities. As the spies buzzed around his fields, they saw nothing particularly magical about his methods. It was the same care, patience, and attention to detail that had won him the contest every year. Medusa, as negative as ever, grumbled from her usual perch by the field with reason. "I kinda understand why you do this contest every year, even though it's the same thing over and over. It really does get enjoyable seeing everyone and their costumes. Maybe we could do a costume contest?" Next year we could do something special. And maybe one day we could just do it here. I'm sure the people would travel here like we travel there. It would be so much easier, and I think I'd enjoy it more on our farm. I love to see you warming up to it, and I like your idea of the costume contest. But having it here, we could do way more stuff. That idea is the best one yet, Clever replied with a smile. And the villagers will love it too, because after all it's for them, and who knows, maybe you could run the costume contest. The spies, invisible to Clever's eyes, hovered nearby, listening to every word, but finding nothing that would help Moria. There were no secrets to Clever's success, just hard work and a positive attitude. The very thing Moria couldn't replicate, no matter how much magic she wielded. As the pumpkin contest drew closer, Moria's frustration grew. Wiley and his crooks had yet to find her wand, and the spies had reported nothing of value from Clever's fields. Time was running out, and Moria knew she needed a backup plan. Fine, she muttered darkly, pacing in her cottage. If I can't find my wand or the skull in time, I'll just have to win by other means. She flipped through her spellbook, searching for something, anything that would give her an edge in the contest. Her eyes landed on a page near the back of the book, a spell that would cause her pumpkins to grow massive overnight, far bigger than anything Clever could produce, but not as big as the disastrous giant pumpkin. It's risky, Moria murmured, her gnarled fingers trailing over the spell. But if it works. She spent the next few nights perfecting the spell, pouring all of her remaining energy into growing the largest pumpkins the village had ever seen. The day of the pumpkin contest arrived, and the villagers gathered once again to admire the carvings and creativity on display. Clever's stall, as always, filled with vibrant pumpkins of all sizes and shapes. His calm demeanor and genuine love for the contest shone through as he greeted the villagers. But this year, Moria arrived with a grand display of her own massive pumpkins, each one larger than the last, grown to an unnatural size by her spell. The villagers marveled at the sheer enormity of them, but as they looked closer, they noticed something was off. The pumpkins, though huge, gave off a horrible odor. As the judges inspected the entries, it became clear that while Moria's pumpkins were impressive in size, they lacked the aroma that a pumpkin should have. The judges admired Clever's meticulous carvings, his attention to detail, and the natural beauty of his pumpkins. Moria, despite all her efforts, had once again failed to understand what made Clever's so special. Wiley and his crooks returned empty-handed, unable to find Moria's wand in the forest. The spies had reported no secrets from Clever's fields, and as the contest came to a close, the villagers once again declared Clever the winner. Moria, standing in the shadows, watched in disbelief as Clever graciously accepted the prize. Her grand plan had failed once more, and the power she had long sought still eluded her. As the villagers celebrated another victory for Clever, Moria retreated to her cottage, her mind swirling with frustration and anger. She had conjured crooks and spies, used dark magic, and even grown the stinkiest, largest pumpkins the village had ever seen, but none of it had been enough. Daniel Thorne, lounging by the hearth, glanced up at her. Still chasing that victory, huh? Maybe next year. Moria glared at him but said nothing. She was tired of losing, tired of chasing after something that always seemed just out of reach. But most of all, she was tired of Daniel Thorne's sarcasm. But deep down, she knew she couldn't give up. Not yet. Not when she was so close. If I could find that skull, or if I could just find my wand. Next year would be different, she whispered to herself with dark, determined eyes. But as long as Moria relied on trickery, crooks, and magic, her victories would be stagnant, just like the pumpkins she had grown. And as the pumpkin contest faded into memory, Moria was left, once again, plotting her next move, her eyes fixed on the power that still eluded her.